analytics courses in IIMs as well as IITs. We are here to learn more about business intelligence and how analytics can help drive intelligent decision making. So a stage is all yours, Havish. We can start.
Thank you so much for the introduction. So we have about an hour or so. So we might stretch the session till about 6:30 in case there are any questions that come up. But we are expecting to finish by about 6:30. But I can stretch a little bit more if required. So I will give a short background just so that you guys know what is it that I do, what type of industries and functions I work with, and then a combination of different things. I want to introduce you to some new technologies that are coming up. For example, in Excel, we have several new things that have been added in the last few years. So I want to introduce those to you. We will also look at Power BI and just a tiny bit of Tableau as well. Excel, I'm sure all of you would have worked on. Um, my background is that I have been working on Excel for 15 plus years now. And I have authored 18 books on analytics. And about 70% of the work that I do is in the area of spreadsheet modeling. Now, spreadsheet modeling doesn't mean that I only work with finance teams. I work with strategy, HR, marketing, sales. Any function that works and their work requires them to work with Excel is a prospective client for me. My work is also sector agnostic. So I work with the energy and power sector, with healthcare, with media, with BFSI. Like I said, my specialty is not in any one industry. My specialty is in a technology, which is Microsoft Excel. I run an analytics firm called Havish Consulting, and we have two arms to the business. So one is consulting, where we work on various types of projects. Now, these can be small, quick turnaround projects, or these can be enterprise level projects as well. And parallel to the consulting that I provide, we also do training for different teams. The training is just your standard trainings that you guys have at colleges. We do the same thing for corporate. So these are classroom trainings where we teach at different skill levels, different team members, technologies like PowerPoint, data storytelling, data analytics, visualization. I'm a Microsoft Office Master, a Data Analyst Associate, a Microsoft Partner, and a Microsoft Certified Trainer. And I love to teach at various business schools and engineering colleges. So my business is not in business schools. My business is in corporate, but I'm very passionate about teaching. And hence, I spend a lot of my time every year working with business schools. I was also a 40 under 40 in 2019 for my work done in Excel Visual Basic. So like I said, I want to show you some new things that are up and coming in Excel. Now, some of these features have already been launched, and some of these features will be slowly rolled out over the next 12 to 18 months. And I want to introduce them to you. But before we do that, I think let's start with Power BI. And there is a data set that I want you all to see. Before I introduce what is Power BI as an application, how is it different to Excel, and what are the capabilities that it has, I want all of you to look at the data and just get a little comfortable with it. We have a sales data set here. We have 50,000 records. We have another 24 odd columns. We have the data, which is the order date, shipping date. Then we have the customer details. After that, we have the geography details. So we have the city, state, country, region, and market. After that, we have the product details. So we have the product name, segment, category, subcategory. And finally, we have the quantitative measures. So the sales profit, discount. Now, anything that I want to do on Excel would require me to do one of two things. Either I write formulas, which is SUMIF, COUNTIF, or I make a pivot table. But either approach is time consuming, isn't it? For example, if I want to find who are my top 5 customers, look at the number of steps that it requires. We will go to insert, make a pivot table. Once I made the pivot table, then we can select sales, put it in values. So my total sales, if you notice here, is $12.5 million. Then I want to put my customer name in rows. And then finally, we want to put a filter and select our top 5 customers. And it tells me that my top 5 customers are Tom, Tamara, Greg, Christopher, and Sean. If I ask you, can you tell me who the top 5 customers in India are? Then we have to put the country in filters, and then we have to choose the one country that we want. So it's not that the process is difficult, but it is time consuming, right? It does take you a little bit of effort to get these results. And then you will have to make a chart. If you want to change the chart, then you have to go to design, change the chart type, and make a different type of chart. Now I want to show you with Power BI how we can do the same tasks. We can get the same results and the insights much faster. So data visualization is not just about making a pretty visual. It is also about generating insights for the business, right? What is Power BI? For those of you who haven't worked on it or haven't heard of it, it's a business intelligence tool. It's a Microsoft tool. It is not a part of Microsoft Office, right? So it's not sold along with Office. You have to download it separately, but it is a free tool. So all of you after today's session can go back and download it free of cost. It was introduced in 2015, so it's been only 5 years, and it has 97% of the Fortune 500 companies as its client, which is amazing, right? Like 485 out of 500, the top 485 of the largest 500 companies in the world are using Power BI. That just goes to show you that in a very short span of time, Power BI has become like the most default tool in data analytics and visualization in the world. Excel, remember, has been around since 1985. It's been there for 35 years. This has only been there for 5 years, and this is quickly becoming not a replacement for Excel, but a supplement for Excel. Excel will still be there, but this allows you to do even more using Excel and Power BI as a combination. This is how the tool looks. All right, so you can see here that we have the interface a little similar to Excel and PowerPoint, but there are also some differences. So if you feel that it looks a little different from Excel and PowerPoint, because it is a different tool, right? There would be some similarities, but I would say most of the things would be different. On the right side, we have a list of all the visualizations. And the first thing I want to do is to connect to my Excel files. So I click on import. The same Excel that I showed to all of you earlier, we will connect to it. So Power BI has a lot of AI features in it. That means that once I've connected to my Excel file, rather than making a visual manually and then putting formulas and sort and filter, we can literally ask a question. So there is an icon here called Q&A where my cursor is highlighted. We click on that and you notice it asks me, ask a question about your data. So as you can see, everything is done right in front of you. There was nothing I've done. There's no model, formula, sort, filter, pivot, absolutely nothing. I've just connected to my raw input file and I can start asking questions. So I can say, what is my sales? And you notice that automatically tells me my total sales is 12.64 million. So this was a very easy question, right? What if we make it a little more difficult? We say, what is my sales for each market? So now you notice it's telling us that Asia Pacific is 4 million, and then we have Europe at 3, and then United States, Latin America, and Africa. Very cool. But what if you don't want to make a bar chart? What if you want to make, let's say, a pie chart? You can just say as a pie chart, and you notice it makes a pie chart for you. This is the power of AI. This is the power of natural language, right? So you don't need to learn a specific syntax. You can ask the question however you want to. For example, if I say, who are my top five customer name by sales, do these names look familiar? Tom, Tamara, Greg, Christopher, and Sean. Watch this. This is India. So let me also say for India. Who are my top five customers? Cynthia, Vivek, Barry, Laurel, Amy. Cynthia, Vivek, Barry, Laurel, Amy. And how cool is that? You're able to get this without having to make a pivot, create all the rows and the columns in the pivot, sort the data, make a chart. You can do this in a single click. So let's continue with this. Let's say I want to see, show me my country by sales as a map. So this means we want to see all the countries in the world like a map. Right? Very straightforward. Now, we like this result. So I'll just put a border here so it looks a little more prominent. The problem is that I don't want to see the entire world at the same time. I just want to view one market at a point of time. So what do? I already have all my countries here. We will create a bar chart. And in the bar chart, we will keep our market and our sales amount. So you get another chart. And you must be thinking, okay, there is a map and there is a bar chart with the market in it. But the best part is that both of these are automatically connected to each other. That means if I click on Asia Pacific, it automatically zooms into Asia Pacific. If I click on Europe, it automatically zooms into Europe. How cool is that, right? No coding, no formulas, no manual work required. It automatically gets connected to each other. Even better, if I want to create a summary, that means I want to create a report from my data, I can simply right click and say summarize. And what does it do? In one click, it is automatically creating an entire summary for me, telling me that, look at this, at 4 million, Asia Pacific had the highest sales, which was 415% higher than Africa, which are the lowest sales at 783,000. Asia Pacific accounted for 31.98% of sales. Very cool. Let me do the same thing, add a border and a shadow. Now you must be thinking, okay, it's a AI result, but it's only one result, right? Like, can it be dynamic? Let me show that to you. Let me make something else. I'll make a slicer. And in the slicer, we will keep the same format as earlier. And what do we keep inside the slicer? I will keep something different. Let's say my segment. And what happens now is I can click on any segment. And do you see how the numbers are changing and how the chart and how the map are changing? That is how easy it is to make these beautiful interactive dashboards on Power BI with very little work and with such deep insights that you want to create. Right? The people who are in the Zoom session, do you have any questions that you would like to ask?
Yeah, please. If anyone has a question, can raise their hand.
Yeah, you
We can
can.
ask
Yeah, absolutely. You can just put it on the chat window, or you can even unmute yourself, however you are comfortable. Apurva, I think you have raised your hand. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yep.
Hello.
Yes.
My name is Santosh. Actually,
Yes,
can we
Santosh.
connect? Can we connect to real-time data like currently, like in industry, like time to time and minute to minute, the every time data will be uploading. So can we see the real-time data? Or it's only for like previous like stored data. This Power BI.
See, when I click on refresh here, if my original data gets updated, my report will also get updated, right?
Can
But
we
if you want
connect
to
this
connect,
to server?
I'm
Server
sorry,
like Oracle, like generally we use Oracle or some database in backend.
you can connect it to all databases,
Okay, okay,
right? So you can connect
okay,
to IBM, MySQL, PostgreSQL, SAP, Google BigQuery, Hadoop, right? There is nothing that it can't connect to,
okay, okay. Thank you.
right? All right. Cool.
Avish,
So
can it do the same? Can we do the same thing by Tableau, or like BI is more, functional?
sure. So this feature of asking a question doesn't work on Tableau. It only works on Tableau online, right? It doesn't work on Tableau desktop. The core difference between Power BI and Tableau, you have to understand that they are competitors, right? So a company that requires a BI tool can use either one of them. Power BI and Tableau both can be used. The larger companies like Amazon and Flipkart, uh, who incidentally are also my client, they work on both these two. In fact, they work on different tools. No company works on only one single tool, but they work in a different proportion. The core difference is that Power BI is much, much simpler to learn. Power BI is much more difficult to learn. So the learning curve is more steep. Power BI uses something called DAX, which is data analysis expressions, which works on SQL, it works on Excel, it works on Microsoft Azure, and it works on Visual Studio. Tableau uses something very different called multi-dimensional expressions. Power BI is good with large data sets, but Tableau is excellent with large data sets. Power BI has a rigid licensing, Tableau has a very flexible licensing, but Tableau is very costly, Power BI is very cheap. In Power BI, you can download more visualizations. In Tableau, you have to create your own visualizations. So in one line, I would say that they are competitors, they're interchangeable, but Tableau is better suited for organizations where the technical level is higher, right? Where the IT team and the analysts have already been working for many years and they are willing to learn something new and spend a lot of time on it. Power BI is meant for organizations that just want quick results, right? And like I said, both these things are important because as an organization, you have people at different skill levels. So there might be certain teams that are very tech savvy. There might be certain teams that probably are not so tech savvy. And that is where Power BI and Tableau both would be required. But broadly speaking, um, Tableau has been around for 17 years. It launched in 2003. Power BI is only 4 or 5 years old. As time goes on, we see that the differences are becoming smaller. That means that they're essentially becoming a commodity, right? Now, Excel doesn't have a competition. Like Excel has literally 95% of the market share. Google Sheets is not a competitor to Excel, right? Like, can you tell me any one Fortune 500 or a Fortune 1000 company that uses Google Sheets internally in the organization? Absolutely not. They might be using it as a secondary tool, but they don't use it as a primary tool. But Power BI and Tableau are not like that. It's a duopoly. That means that there are many players in the market, right? So we have Power BI, Tableau, Click, ThoughtSpot, Oracle, SAP, SAS, Salesforce, Google, TIBCO, IBM Cognos. So the business intelligence landscape is not just one or two players. There are many, many players in this landscape. Like SAP has literally no competition. Salesforce also has literally very little competition. Salesforce has very little competition. But when it comes to BI is not an area where there are only two players. There are many, many players in the market, as you can see here. Right? There is something on the chat window. Let me just check that. Is it compatible with something like Raspberry Pi? No, Sai. See, Power BI is a business intelligence tool, right? So even though Power BI can connect to R and Python, the functionalities would be limited, right? Because it's not a programming tool. But if you want to check that, you can check something called Power BI Embedded, where you can make API calls. Perhaps you will find something that can connect to a Raspberry Pi, but I haven't seen anybody who does it, but let's see. So let me just quickly search for this and then we'll go back to our examples. Building a real-time IoT dashboard with Power BI step-by-step tutorial. Okay, let's check. Yeah, so that would work. See, I can set up a Raspberry Pi weather station, which calculates the temperature and humidity, and the real-time data can be presented on Power BI. Right? But for this, you will need to have a streaming data set in Power BI. And like I said, you will need to have an API call for this, right? So that you will have to figure out on your own. But I don't think you will need to have a paid account for this. I think this should work with a free account also. So it's supposed REST APIs, and you can just probably have a go at this. I'll share the link on the chat window so that you can go through it later. All right. Coming back to our example, we have seen how we can create a beautiful dashboard. But what about calculations, right? Let's see how we do that. Now, we know that there is a trend line that I can create. So I can make a line chart with my order date and my sales amount. This we all know, right? So it's nothing special, just a trend line with my month-wise movement, right? And 4 years of data from 12 to 15. The question is that how do I find out the profit margin? Or for that matter, let's take a slightly different example. I know that this is the data which has my data labels. Just give me a moment. Like this. So if you notice carefully, we can see that in quarter one, it was 338,000, which increased to 480. It became 611, then it became 829, then it dropped to 399. So my question here is, give me a moment, everyone. Okay. My question here is that what do you do if you want to find the change that is happening? You know, the quarter over quarter change that is happening. For this, we can go to data, right? And here we can create a new table like this. Now this uses something called DAX, which is data analysis expression. And what I can do is I can actually create a date table, which is my calendar. These are not Excel functions, okay? So this is calendar. What is the start date? It is my minimum order date. And then what is the end date? It is my maximum order date. Right? Makes sense? What do you expect it will do? It will create a list of dates from the 2012 year till 2050. So you notice it creates a complete list of values like this. But if you want to use a slightly more complicated formula, you can do that also. For example, like I have a simple date table that I've created here. But what if I want something a little more detailed? So let me just copy this. And we will remove this and copy this formula, right? Now this is, remember, not Excel. This is a completely different language. And what I want to do here is I will say, this is my data from the orders table, order date, and then my orders table, order date. Everything else looks okay. Now see what it will do. Using one single formula, when I press enter, it will actually create my date, my calendar year, my month name, and my month number. Very cool, right? Like this. And if you wanted to modify this, for example, you did not want to see January, you wanted to see JAN, you can just come here and make that change. And as you can see, it makes that change inside the table. Very powerful, very similar to Excel, but it's a completely different set of functions that are available. By the way, these work on Excel as well. So it's not just on Power BI. I can write these functions on Excel as well. But now that I made two tables, one is my date table, by others is orders, I will have to connect both of them. But I don't need to do any programming. I can just select my date, and this is my order date, and I can drag and connect them like this. Did you see this? Date is connected to order date. Now, when I go back to my report, it doesn't work, but let's not worry. Why is it not working? Because my order date is not a date. What is my date? The new table that I created called date. So same result as earlier, everyone. I have my date here. Please watch. 2013, 12, 13, 14, 15, and I can go to my quarters as well. But how do I find the change that is happening? You know, from Q1 to Q2, what is the change that happened? For this, I can click on quick measure, this one. And we can create a calculation called quarter over quarter change. It's a very basic financial calculation that you need to do. What is my base value? It is sales. What is my date? It is the date. And my number of period is 1, because I want to see a quarter over quarter change. So what does it do? It creates a formula for me like this. Broadly, what is the formula doing? It is calculating the sum of your sales for the last quarter. That means -1 quarter. Then you're taking the current quarter minus the previous quarter divided by the previous quarter. Let's see this in action and see how it works. When I put my sales QOQ in my tooltip here, you would notice that nothing happens. The chart is not changing. But if I take my mouse, do you see what it is doing? In Q1, there is no change because that was the first quarter, so there is no base value. But if I go to Q2, it tells me that there was a 41% increase. How cool is that? Watch this, 338, 480, so there was a 41% increase. And if I go from Q4 to Q1, it tells me there was a negative 51% increase. Imagine if you had to do these things on Excel, you would have had to write formulas and copy and paste them. You will have to check whether the formulas are working properly or not. And here, everything is dynamic. As you can see, I have my table. I want to look at something else. For example, I want to create a new visualization. So I'll select more visuals and I can download something else. Like you have the Android and the iOS app store. Similarly, you have an app store for Power BI and you have more than 250 charts available here. So I'm going to select something called the drill down donut chart, this one, right? Advanced donut visual. What does it do? This visualization will give me the ability to create multiple levels in a pie chart. Let me explain how. I want to put my segment, below which I'll put my category, and below that we will put our subcategory and my sales value. Now you must be thinking, okay, Havish, you have made a pie chart. What's the big deal, right? It looks like a pie chart, correct? Let me just make it a little smaller and also add a number here so that you can see the total sales. 1 second. Okay. 12.64 million is my total sales. We all know that. Now this looks like a pie chart, correct? But remember, there are 3 levels here. We have segment, category, and subcategory. So it tells me that my consumer segment is 51% of my sales. But what if I want to see the different categories within the consumer segment? I can actually click on this and you notice a lot of things are happening. It is now going within my consumer segment and telling me the 3 categories, right? Let me do that once again. So I click, the number changes, I get 3 levels. And see how the column is changing. It is telling me that the total sales for Q4 is 14,81,000, out of which how much has the consumer segment contributed? 7,68,000. And I can keep on doing this. So what is this telling me? It is telling me that if I click on copiers, the proportion of copiers is 1 lakh out of total 14 lakhs that I sold in Q4 2015. So you can make these interactive dashboards, not just dashboards where charts connect to each other, but you can also have your own formulas and time intelligence functions and all of that, right? All right. What else can I show you? Good. So you have a sense of what Power BI is now. And let me show you some different dashboards that have been created on Power BI. So this is on my website. So all of you can go back and have a look at it. My website is havishmconsulting.com. And you can see here different dashboards have been created. And each of these dashboards have been created on Power BI completely. Right? I'll just take for a moment for it to open. Or let me also open it parallelly, whichever one opens first. You can see it here if it is not opening on the website. So I have a finance dashboard here, this one. Right? So just like a PowerPoint presentation, I can go to different pages, but you know what the big deal is, right? It's dynamic. Like I can see my sales versus target. I can click on different shipping modes. I can also select a different study period, right? And everything is connected to each other. So if you go through different pages, you will notice every single thing that you see here is dynamic and has been created on Power BI. Like this entire calendar that you see here, nobody has done it manually. All this is dynamic. Watch this, right? So you guys can go and check the website havishmconsulting.com, right? Let me also show you what all is available on Excel now, right? Now if I ask you guys what all do you know on Excel, you will tell me I know that there are cells, rows, and columns, and there is sum if, VLOOKUP, index match, pivot tables, charts, and that's it, right? We don't know anything more than that. But let me show you what all is available. Please watch. Let's say I'm working on Excel and I need to take some data from a website and put it on the Excel spreadsheet. Yeah, I'll come to macros in a bit, right? So let's say I want to take some data from money control and put it on Excel. I don't even have to go to the website. I can just click on data, select from web. And what I can do now is I can actually put in the URL. So I'll say https www.moneycontrol.com. And you know what that will do? Directly, I can fetch the data from the website using Excel. So it will take anywhere from 5 to 30 seconds. It will show me all the tables that are there. So as you can see, this is my table, everyone. I have all the indexes. I have all the numbers here. And in global markets, in table 0, in table 11, we have different data sets here, right? Everybody. So if you look at currencies, what do we have? We have the heading, currency, price change, and percentage change. In table 0, we have the column 1, 2, 3, 4. So what will I do? Just remember this part. Two tables we need, currencies and table 0. So I'm going to select multiple tables, currencies and table 0. Transform it. And now within Excel, it will open something called Power Query Editor. Power Query Editor is similar to SQL, where you can do data transformation. It's an ETL tool. And what does it do? You notice this is my currencies, this is my table, right? In the currencies, I will click on use the headers as the first row so that the headers come here. Currency, price change, and percentage change. And also I have these 3 rows which I don't need. So I can click on remove rows and I'll remove the 3 bottom rows like this. Now I want to combine this table and this table. But how do we do that? For this, very simple, we click on merge query, which will allow us to do a VLOOKUP, or I do append query, which will allow us to combine 2 tables. So I click on append. The 2 tables that I want to append are currencies and table 0. And what will happen is all the data will come one below the other. First row is headers. That's it. You get your data. Now, when I click on close and load, the clean data set will come back to Excel. And you know what the best part is? This is dynamic, right? Let me just show you the correct table. This is dynamic. That means if I right click and refresh, it will actually take the current data that is available on moneycontrol.com. As a matter of fact, you can even click on query and click on properties and set it to automatic refresh every 1 minute. That means that every 60 seconds, your Excel file will automatically go and fetch the latest stock market prices from Money Control and show it to you on the Excel file. Right? Very cool, right? Like who would have thought that Excel would be capable of things like these? But what if you want to find the price of a specific stock? Like this is the index, right? But what if I want to know, let's say, Tata Motors, or let's just say Britannia, right? I can click on data and select stocks. This means that this particular term is converted into a stock market value like this. And how do I know what is the high price of yesterday? I can say equal to G3 dot previous close, and it tells me that Britannia closed at 3510 yesterday when the market closed on Friday. Amazing, right? Like this is able to give you the data from an authentic source from which is also dynamic without having to do any manual work. And now I can also say equal to stock history. Let's see how this works. I'll say that my starting date and my end date is the 1st of January 2019 till the 1st of November 2020. Okay, everybody just watch this. Equal to Stock history. What is my stock? Britannia. What is my start date? 1st Jan. What is my end date? 1st November. What is the interval? Monthly. Do I want to show the header? I do. What all do I want to see? I want to see the date. I want to see the open value. I want to see the close value. I want to see the high value. In one formula, look at the result. It actually builds for you an entire summary of Britannia stock for the last 1.5 years, right? Amazing, right? And remember, this is all dynamic. That means that if I come here and I make it Tata Motors, it asks me what exchange do I want. So I want, let's say, Bombay Stock Exchange. And in one click, it gives me the data for Bombay Stock Exchange. Right? So Excel will now be capable of doing the sort of things that earlier would not have been possible at all. But let's say we want to do a currency conversion. That means I want to say $100 is equal, 100 US dollars is equal to a certain amount of rupee. How do you do that? Like, I will have to go to a website and track that one single value here. And there would be so many combinations, right? Because I can put any currency that I want. So this process will not help me, because if I do this, then it will take me a lot of time to track each and every currency that is there. Okay. All these features will only be available for Microsoft 365, right? No other version of Excel. Also, some of these features are not yet released. Please understand that, right? I work as a Microsoft developer, so I get early access to upcoming features. So some of these features like stock history and all, you might not have them right now. You will get them next year sometime, but you will need to have Microsoft 365 with you. Which version is this? Let me explain that. This one, Microsoft 365 Personal. This one will not have all the features. Even though it would seem that this is the latest version, which is 2019, it will not have all the features ever. It's not that they will not have the features today, they will never have the new features. This is the best and the most premium version of Microsoft Office. And this is on a subscription level. That means you have to pay 420 rupees per month or 4,200 per year, right? Two options. It's like a Netflix subscription. You have to pay a monthly fee for this. But even if you have this, you might not have these features today, because some of these features are still getting rolled out. They're still in an alpha or a beta stage. So they will slowly get rolled out with time. But this is already there. The data is already there. The stock history might not be there, right? But this one works perfectly, what you see here, right? Now, how do these features work on Microsoft Word, for example? You know, how does AI work on Microsoft Word? Now I have a feature called Dictate. And what does it do? The Dictate feature allows me to speak to the system, and it automatically converts my speech into real-time text. And the best part is that, furthermore, if I want to convert this into a different language, I can do that also in a single click. So as you can see, I've created an entire summary, speech to text. How do I convert it into a different language? Very simple. You right click and then you say translate. So without having to go to Google Translate, you can simply say that I have English and I want to make it into Hindi. That's it. You get your translation. And it works better than Google Translate, right? The accuracy is much, much better than Google Translate. How does AI work in PowerPoint? If you want to make a new slide, I can now just say insert text box and I can write analytics. Okay, see what happens. When I click on design ideas, it will automatically create an entire PowerPoint presentation for me. Watch this. How cool is that? Do you see these? These are options that it is giving me. Let me just select the first one. So just by looking at the term that I wrote, it is automatically creating. Let me just set the playback to automatically. It is automatically creating this for me. You don't have to go online, you don't have to search, download, and then use it. It will automatically do it for you. And the best part is that now when you make more slides, even though it's not working with this one, let me just do it once again. Let's say business school, okay? Design ideas. Let's say I like this. And when you make more slides, you notice the template has also been copied, right? Just imagine the amount of time and effort this will save you. All right. I'm just thinking what else is there on Excel that I can show you. So somebody asked me about macros. Let me give you an example. Let's say you want to create a software within Excel that will take a user input and put it in a cell. So I want to have name and the sales value and the age here, for example, right? Let's see what I do. I will click on the sheet and then say view code, right? So this is the programming background of Excel. And you just get a blank window here. So which workbook are we working on? We're working on book number 1. Let me close the other things. I'm working on book number 1. I'll create a form, insert user form. And in this form, I will simply write data entry. Okay. Let me change the color as well. Let's make it white. What do we want to put here? I want to put 2 labels like this and this. We want to change the label color. So let's just select, we just copy it once again. Perfect. So I want to change the color. So let's just select this and put a different color. So let's say this is blue and this one is blue as well. And also the text will be changed to, give me a moment. Where's my text, watercolor, border style, 4 color. Right, so let me change it to white so you can see it properly. And this one also becomes white. What is this? This is my name, right? So I'll say insert name, right? On the next one, we'll say insert age. But how does the user submit this? For this, we will create a command button, right? And let's change the color to something better. Let's make it yellow. And here I'll call it as submit. But the question is that how is this form going to open? Like the user doesn't know programming. So while you are creating it as an analyst, how will the user know how to open it? So we will insert a module and we will simply say open form. I will say user form 1.show. Let's see how the form works. I will create a shape, just any shape that I want. So I'll create a nice big circle. And I'll say open. And on this, I can assign a macro and then say open form. So what happens now? When I click, it opens the form. But when I click on submit, nothing is happening, right? Obviously, because think about it. Like we have not put any code in it. We've just created a structure. We have created a skeleton. Very simple. We will now say range A1 dot value is equal to what? Text box 1 dot value. And I can then say range A2 dot value is equal to the second text box. Make sense? So we'll say B1 dot value is equal to my text box 2 dot value. Let's see if it works or not. Click Havish 33, submit, and you notice the values come. Make sense? But let's try that once again. The problem is that I want the value to come in the second row, but how do I know which row is it? Because the row will keep on changing, right? Like every time I add a new name, the row will keep on changing. For this, we can go online and just search for VBA L row. That will help me understand how to find the last row. That means how many records are already there. So there's a simple line of code here which finds the L row for you. How do we incorporate it? I come back. We will say the L row is equal to This is just copy and paste. I don't have to make any change here. And rather than saying A1, I will say A and L row. Same thing, I'll say B and L row. And what's going to happen now is that when the user says open, I will say Havish 33. It gives me the value. But why is it still coming in A1? Because the problem is I have to go in the next row. Makes sense? If the last row is 1, then the value should come in +1. So I will simply say here L row is equal to L row +1. I'll increment it by 1. Now let's finally check. Havish, 33 works perfectly. I want to give one more input. I want to say Ronak, 25, and it gives me the input like this. Did you see how easy it was to create something like this? Now, this is a very simple example that I've given to all of you. But if you look at a real client project, obviously these would be much more advanced, much more complex forms. Let me give you a sample. So this is something we did for a client. Please see this, everyone. I can select a name and I can click on a form and it will automatically make an entire form like this. The same logic that I showed you earlier, that means that you first have to create the skeleton of the form, and then you have to basically, put some code behind it that will take the data from Excel and plot it. That is what we have done here. It's almost like a software that we are creating on top of Excel, right? But remember, the future is not Visual Basic. Visual Basic is already outdated. If you notice, Visual Basic was declared legacy in 2008. That means that Microsoft stopped focusing on Visual Basic in 2008, 12 years back. But then what is going to replace Visual Basic? Visual Basic is going to be replaced by something called TypeScript, right? It's a language that Microsoft has created, and I mean, it is basically supporting it. What does it do? It allows you to do something on Excel using TypeScript, right? I just want to give you a small example here. Now, see, I'm not showing all this to scare you. Most likely, if you guys want to work as a data analyst, you will not need to go into the programming side of it so heavily. But you have to understand that the future is programming. Whether you want to be a basic user of programming or a very advanced user or something in the middle, that's up to you. But if you come back to me and say that, Havish, we absolutely dislike programming and we just don't want to do it, then it's not possible for you to work in the future. We've already seen it happening, right? And in the next 2, 3, 4 years, you will start to see that even traditional roles like sales and marketing and all, they will also have an element of programming in them. For example, I'm a non-engineer, right? I'm a BBA and an MBA in marketing and finance. I have only been programming for 5 years. That's it. I have never done programming in my life. I started programming at the age of 28, right? But I'm trying to tell you all this to show you that it's not difficult to learn it at any point in your life, right? Even if you don't have that background. Some of you would, even the ones who don't, you don't need to be scared about it. But I just wanted to show you something. Like I'm building an add-in, which are additional capabilities on Excel. And I want you to see how it looks. Do you see this? Do you see this pane called Havisham Consulting? How do you think I've made it? What is this? This is nothing but a JavaScript window. It's an HTML web page that I've created. And obviously I have made it because it has my name on it. And what does it do? You select some cells and it can put a color on it. I mean, it's just an example to show you what all is possible. But you have to understand that the future is going to be TypeScript. So if you want to be an advanced Excel user, if you want to be a data analyst in any industry at any level, you have to learn programming. You don't have a choice. It's not that I'm telling you because I like it and I work in areas which require programming. I'm sure all of you agree with me that Excel is used everywhere. No company in the world doesn't use Excel. Excel is used by 1.2 billion people worldwide. It is the largest used software in the world, right? Without question. And obviously, if so many people are using it, then it also goes without saying that it is important to learn everything new in Excel. And this is new in Excel. But You might be feeling overwhelmed. How will we learn everything in one day? Of course, you don't learn these things in one day. You spend a lot of time learning these things one by one by one, but you can't skip it, right? Like you can't sit for an interview and tell them, I don't even know what it is, right? You might tell them my knowledge level is a little lesser. That's okay because you're more of a HR or a finance or a consultant. But can you tell me that you want to become a consultant and you don't want to learn programming? It's not possible. Like if you look at my calendar, you would see that I have trainings with EY, D Shaw, PwC. What does that tell you? I did a training with GSK earlier. That simply tells you that programming is a must. Whatever your background is, whatever your inclinations and your passion is, it doesn't matter. Learning programming is important. So if you don't like to learn it, all the more you should start early. I always tell people this. If you like it, then learn it. Then there's nothing stopping you. And if you don't like it, then please learn. You have to work harder than other people, right? Because you will have to literally give it more hours. But the choice is not should I or should I not. The question is how to do it, right? Yeah, how to start and where to start. I think the best starting point for all of you will be Excel Visual Basic, right? And basic Python. When I say basic Python, I just mean 10 lines of code. Let me give you an example on Python as well, right? Since we're talking about data visualization and analytics, just one small example. All right, so let me just close everything else. 1 second. I want to show you that you don't need to write long codes to get some results. If you notice, this is just 3 lines of code. Do you see this, everyone? 1, 2, and 3. What is the Facebook page for IIT Kanpur? Let me just check that. It is IIT Kanpur, everyone. What are the posts on the webpage? It says, congratulations to our dearest Union Education Minister, inviting industries and R&D organizations to join us. It says something else, right? Signing an MOU. What if I tell you to analyze the last 100 posts that IIT Kanpur has given? Obviously, you will have to do it manually. Watch this. IIT Kanpur, I just have to come to my code and I have to write IIT Kanpur, run, and in one click, it tells me all the posts that have come from IIT Kanpur. Do you see the power of programming? No matter how good you are with Excel and your consulting bent of mind, it doesn't matter. If you're not using the right technologies, you will always be behind people who know the right technology. They might be a college student, a fresher, or I don't know, even a 12th pass student who knows programming than you. Because when you have to work on a project, you will spend 90% of your time just getting the data. But somebody who has the capability will get this data using 3 lines of code. Now, if you come back and say, oh, we were not aware that this is there, then that's not an excuse, right? I hope you agree with me. Like if I'm sitting with a client, right? Like I work as a consultant, yes. If I'm sitting with a client and, we are talking about a problem and suddenly the client says, oh, Havish, do you know that there is a software that does this? And I say, oh, I was not aware of that. Will I not look stupid? Will the client not expect that if I'm coming as a consultant, I should know everything that is happening in the market? I should be aware of all the technologies in the market. So I should know that there is something called NIME, which is a data tool. I should know that there is something called Alteryx, which is a data automation tool. My point is that if you say that, Havish, yes, of course, when you're sitting with a client and you're running a business, then they would expect you to know everything. Similarly, when you guys are doing your MBA and you're going to whatever engineering MBA and you will enter the corporate world, don't you think that they will expect that you know at least what all is happening out there? I'm not saying you need to know every tool in detail. It's not possible. Nobody can learn all programming languages, right? It's just meaningless. But at the same time, you should at least be aware about it. You should have some level of knowledge about it. Coming back, basic Python, Excel, VBA, advanced Excel. I don't know how many times I have to tell people this. please learn advanced Excel before doing anything else. It will just make it so much easier for you. You have to do an intermediate level Power BI and maybe a basic level of Tableau. The reason I say that is that in India, especially, companies don't work on Tableau. Tableau is a very expensive software. It costs $840 per year. Power BI only costs $120 per year. That's why, especially in India, companies don't use Tableau. Everybody uses Power BI because it's cheaper, much, much cheaper. And so Excel, VBA, Python, Power BI, and Tableau. These are the 5 things that you have to do. If you notice, I've not mentioned R. And a lot of you must be thinking, what dislike do I have for R? I don't have a dislike. I work on R as well, right? But you have to understand that if you're working as a data scientist, yes, you need to work on R for statistical analysis. But other than a pure data science profile, 90% of companies, they will require you to simply do data visualization and data analytics. And for data analytics and data visualization, you don't need statistics. That is why Python is what you would require and not R. I would like to say that once again, I'm not dismissing it. R is optional only if you are in a statistics requiring profile, right? For marketing students, for HR, and consulting, absolutely not required. I can tell you this with confidence. I have taken over 200 trainings at PwC and EY. I've taught over 15,000 participants, and I can say this with confidence. Nobody uses R. Nobody requires R. Do they have teams of people that work on R? Absolutely. They have a data science team. But a normal, regular consultant will have absolutely no reason to work on R. Now, why do I work on it? Because my work is, fairly broad in scope. So I work on different types of projects. So I have to learn different technologies. But my work is also much more on Python and lesser on R, right? Because my work is actually not very hardcore statistics. It's very, very simple statistics. At most, standard deviation, variance, regression, nothing more than that, right? So this is the learning path that you have to follow. So what I do with colleges, and I've done this with maybe the 50 of the top 100 B schools in the country. So we do a 6-day session on Excel 2 days, Power BI 3 days, and Tableau 1 day. So this is a 12-hour live session, which will be conducted by me. And then you guys get a capstone project. You get a certificate, obviously. You get a live project if you're interested. And then I prepare you for interviews as well. In addition to the live 12-hour training, you also get 36 hours of recorded content. So you get even more case studies and problem statements to work on. Right? So this is what we offer to different colleges. My corporate module is very different to this. Like if you want to see it, I don't mind showing it to you. So this is what we do for corporate clients, right? So there is an Excel data analysis, then there is a power user, then there is an ultimate Excel course. This is the most difficult course that we do. It's like 5 out of 5. Then I have a VBA module, then I have a statistics module, Power BI, advanced Power BI, sales and marketing, PowerPoint, Tableau, Python for non-programmers, right? But the corporate requirements are very different to your requirements. Companies only wish to learn what they need on a day-to-day basis. You guys have not yet started working, so you should know a little bit of everything, right? And that's what you should keep in mind. Right. I think we have covered a lot of things. So that will be all from my side. I will also share my YouTube channel with all of you. You can just search for Havish Madhvapaty. I have 329 videos on YouTube, which cover everything: Excel, PowerPoint, Power BI, Tableau, Python. And I keep on adding more and more content. So you'll find a lot of content already available here. So Apur, I've answered your question before you asked me. So you can go to my channel and you'll find a lot of content here. Right. Excellent. So everyone, that would be all from my side. I'm happy to take up any questions that are there. I hope all of you have a much broader understanding of analytics now. And I hope you have a much more appreciation for Excel. One of the first things people do is to dismiss Excel. They say, no, Excel is old and I want to learn the new things. But I hope you can see that the world starts and the world ends at Excel. you can do nothing. You can never be proficient at any tool unless and until you know Excel very well, right?
Okay.
Good. Any other questions, anyone?
Okay. So, if someone has a question, they can also write it on the YouTube channel, and we can just send it to Havish if some of the people are visiting it later on the video. I mean, on YouTube channel.
Yeah, absolutely. So the ones who are on the YouTube link, you can just send it to the coordinators, and or you can reach out to me directly on LinkedIn either.
Yeah,
That
right.
that also works.
I think it was a very, very insightful session for all of us. I think, especially the data enthusiasts among us. So, okay. So we'll share some feedback form with the those who were present, and in case we are confirmed with the session, the courses that are to be
Sure.
conducted in the winter time, we'll share the details of that with those in the session and other people also. Okay, so
All right.
it was a great session. Thanks a lot, Avish. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone. All the
Yeah.
very best.
Thanks everyone for joining in. That's it from
Yeah.
PGNC today.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Thank you, Havish.
Thank you.
Bye.